You're listening to Through Our Lens with the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance at Sacramento State, a podcast that centers on disability with the hopes of uplifting, informing, and bringing together disabled people and their allies. If you'd like to join Dana in the conversation, head to the description to check out our link tree and find us on Instagram at DANA at Sac State. Hashtag Where's the Ramp? Hashtag We're Good at Podcasting.
My name is Rian Dindzans, and I'm here with Brian. This week, I'll be your host on the topic of disability and the queer community. Of course, this topic can steer to other related topics as we discuss, so please don't be disappointed if we get wildly off topic. So, the reason why I want to talk about disability in the queer community today is because I've noticed there is a very large overlap between the two communities, and even though on the surface they might not seem related at all, when you get down to the details, it's really no wonder that there's so much overlap. To me personally, I believe that the foundational concepts behind disability justice and queer justice are incredibly similar. Both communities are fighting for equal rights, the rights to exist in public as we are, the rights to, go into the places that other people go into without being judged or excluded, and the right to live our lives the way that is easiest and most comfortable for us. Any questions so far, Brian?
I guess I'm not really part of the queer community, but I'm more part of the disability community. I guess what community are you a part of?
Both. I'm both gay as fuck and also disabled as fuck.
Yeah.
Wait, I can say fuck on here, right?
Yeah, because it's not on KSC.com. It's on YouTube.
I'm just checking. I'm pretty sure I've said fuck like a million times on here before, but I just
I mean like you did before, but I don't know, it's fine.
I never knew if it was edited out because when I watched the videos afterwards on YouTube, I'd play it in the background, so I'm not actually paying attention to what's being said because I was there for it. Yeah. But it's like nice background noise, so I never know if it's like actually edited out if I should stop saying it.
I don't think it matters anymore right now. But anyways, back to the topic. I don't really know like much about like everything's kind of new for me. Disability and the queer community is like interrelated. It's all like kind of new for me. And and I guess before we started recording, Rian was talking a lot about it, and it was really interesting.
I really should have waited till I started recording because now I'm like, oh man, what did I say?
What did you say? Okay. One thing you said was like, I guess disability and the queer community work really well together. Like they kind of focus on helping each other out with like medical stuff and like if everything, and like basically normalizes like caring culture, and there's no bullshit.
Yeah. So the disabled community is intensely familiar with a lot of medical term settings and policies and like different conditions you can have because a lot of disabilities doctors are not particularly familiar with and might even be misinformed, so it falls onto the responsibility to become informed falls onto the patient, and they end up doing a lot of research about their own condition and other conditions as well, just in case. So like, if someone starts talking to them and describing some of the health problems they've been having, it's not entirely surprising for that disabled person to be like, hey, that sounds like X, that sounds like this particular condition. You should go talk to your doctor about it. And like 9 times out of 10, they'll be right. So so expertise in the medical field from a lot of disabled people, not every disabled person, obviously, but a significant amount, enough where it's like a trend, and then on the queer side of things, they're also actually pretty familiar with some medical stuff because they have to deal with things like top surgery and bottom surgery, transitioning with hormones, being familiar with the safety procedures of binding, what to do, what not to do, and they can tell you how to bind safely or like there's actually been a hormone recall, so you can generally count on the queer community to let you know when a recall like that has been issued. People look out for each other in both communities, and because of the overlap between the two, those communities end up looking out for each other as well.
Yeah, I guess like one way that they could do it is just by making like blog posts about it. Tips for top surgery, tips for living with arthritis, tips for bottom surgery, things like that.
Yeah, and when recovering from surgery, if a disabled person is familiar with that and a trans person is like, "Oh, I'm worried about, what recovery will be like. What can I do to make it easier?" And the disabled person will be like, "Oh, I know," you know. um, and the other thing too is how we collaborate on the freedom to express gender and sexuality in our own ways without judgment too. Because when you're disabled, fundamentally that means you can't do some things like other people can. That's the definition of disabled, which means that might end up meaning societal expectations are placed on you that you cannot meet, and a lot of the times that can fall under the categories of sexuality and gender, right? So like for myself, for example, I'm femme on some levels. I'm not a woman, but I was assigned female at birth and I'm femme. And so there is a societal expectation that I should be nurturing and caring, and my goal in life should be, to have and take care of kids. But at the same time, I'm the one that needs to be taken care of. I have to hire caregivers to make
Yeah.
sure that I get dressed and fed and I can go to the bathroom. And, I don't really mind that, honestly, but just the idea that I have to be a caregiver for someone else, um, especially someone that I'm not prepared to take care of. Like, I do want to be a parent one day, but that's has nothing to do with gender roles. I just think kids are cool and it'd be
Yeah, kids are
cool to
cool.
like be a parent, and that I don't want to give birth, so I'll be adopting.
Adopting.
But
Yeah.
like, if you tell people that start with, "Oh, you would be such a great parent and you could totally give birth if you wanted to," then they start backing away slowly the
Mhm.
more queer I get with it, because saying I don't want to give birth and saying I don't want to be a parent is inherently queer.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be,
It
honestly,
shouldn't be.
but because of how our society is structured, it is. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
definition of queer is, gender and sexuality experiences or states of being that are different than the norm, and
Yeah,
not
I think
wanting to give birth does fall under that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I do think like whenever people say like, "Oh, I'm not planning to have a child," "Oh, I'm not planning to give birth," people are just really surprised because that's not how like society is.
and they're rude about it too sometimes. So like get
But you
pushy about
should.
it and ask like super invasive questions and like, do you really want to know, like, what if it's like a super traumatic backstory, like medically or otherwise, like,
Mhm.
do you really want to dig that up?
Yeah, it gets a little awkward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's another point it intersects too, because it could be you don't want to give birth because you're queer, you're
Yeah.
or trans mask or whatever, or it could be because you've had absolutely terrifying experiences with the medical field due to being disabled and having to deal with that shit.
Yeah.
Or it could be both. You know, there's overlap there.
Yeah, isn't there like an aspect to it where I guess disabled people, like, because they're disabled, they can't have like top surgery because it's like, I guess, like, not really beneficial for the health, but it's really beneficial for themselves.
Yeah, that is a thing. That is a thing. You know, if your health isn't good enough for the doctors to agree to give you the surgery, or even if your health makes it so that you can't bind, you know, that there's some overlapping issues there. Both with, you know, the state of medicine needing to catch up to different types of bodies, and also just the inherent clash between, you know, a body that's trying to fall apart at the seams and, you know, devices meant to help keep it in a certain shape. You know, like some people can't bind because maybe they have like a condition like
Wait,
Ehlers-Danlos
wait, can you explain what bind is?
Oh yeah, it's basically when you're using a clothing device to
Oh,
compress your chest
yeah.
so that it appears more flat. It works differently for different people depending on your body shape. Like if you have a bigger chest, you might need a tighter binder, or you might be advised to not bind at all because the risk of it hurting your ribs could increase.
Mhm.
You can bind safely with a bigger chest, it just gets a little more complicated. Um, and I do not recommend using stuff like sports tape to bind because even though the gender euphoria might feel worth it in the moment, the after effects of it are horrific. And especially if you have like a tissue disorder that makes your skin like really soft and easy to break, you know, it's dangerous to put something that's sticky on your chest. And that can also be an issue of binding in general because that could mean that your ribs are more easily dislocated. Um, you don't want to dislocate your ribs. It's really uncomfortable.
Wait, have you before? That happened before.
I sometimes my rib gets pushed in, not by binding, just like in general. Sometimes it gets pushed in,
Oof.
and it's like I have to like breathe really deep for a few tries, and sometimes it doesn't like pop back into place for a couple hours, and it's not even dislocated; it's just pushed in a bit, and I'm like, if that's that uncomfortable, I don't want to think about how a dislocated rib would feel.
Yeah. Yeah, my ribs are, I guess, like my left rib is kind of like really far apart, like
Yeah.
from each other, so it's like it sticks out a little bit, and like sometimes people like bump between my rib. It's like, it hurts because it's like kind of like the highest point, like
Yeah,
when I lay down.
yeah, and but the thing is that, you know, if you're queer and disabled and you find other people like you, generally you can find solutions and workarounds and tips to help get around that. And
Yeah.
I think that just makes it better for everyone because even if those tips leave your inner circle, they can still help a lot of different people. Like maybe if you're not disabled, but your body shape doesn't quite work with binding, maybe these tips can help you.
Yeah, and I guess like you can find community like almost everywhere, right? Like on Google or like on Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest communities I found personally have been on Tumblr because Tumblr is a magnet for social rule breakers and weird ass people. It's also a bit of a cesspool, but once you curate your dashboard enough, it's a very nice community space to be in. Also on Twitter too, there's a massive disability community on Twitter and queer community too. The discourse in the queer community varies depending on who you hang out with. So, yeah, but the thing is, the thing that gets me the most about the connection between the two is that queer liberation in terms of gender and sexuality directly equates to disabled liberation in those under those same topics, because and beyond too, because like if you're allowed to dress and look however you want, then you can do what makes you comfortable in managing your disability without being judged for it. Um, and if you can, have sex with whoever you want on a gender level, then you don't have to worry about judgment of whether or not you can have sex as a disabled person, um, or with who, right? Like the more either of them gets normalized, the more it helps the other become normalized. It gets their foot in the door. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I guess like both communities are just trying to make the world a better place for like everyone.
yeah, yeah, and it's like I said earlier, like fundamentally, both have their roots in being against society's
Yeah.
norms just by existing. And so by fighting for liberation on either side, we're helping both sides.
Yeah. Can you talk about like when like other times when the community doesn't work or isn't as interrelated?
Yeah. So, obviously they are two different communities, and sometimes there are things in one community that makes it inaccessible to the other. For example, gay bars are very inaccessible. They have a lot of stairs, there's a lot of tight, dark spaces, they're noisy, they're loud, crowded, and the main activity is, drinking alcohol.
And
And not
dancing.
every disabled person can drink alcohol or wants to, and it's a nightlight life type thing too, and a lot of disabled people can't have a nightlife because they need to take care of themselves. They
Yeah.
can't go out and party till 3 a.m. and stumble back home and fall into bed.
Yeah.
They have a routine. They need to take care of themselves. They have
Yeah.
medicine they need to take.
Yeah, and plus like some disabled people need medicine, so like they can't drink alcohol with medicine because
That too.
that's not good. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, and it's with the environment too, with the noise level and the light level and the amount of space. I don't feel comfortable navigating a gay bar because of how little space there is for me to navigate in general. And with low lights and lots of noise for me personally, that's kind of a hang up because I get really dizzy easily in those conditions, and I have to like step outside, so not ideal. But if we had more spaces for queer people that were also more accessible, like daytime activities that don't center around alcohol, that have quiet places you can go to hang out, that have more space, not only would that be more accessible to disabled members of the queer community, but it would also help integrate the queer community more into the surrounding society, because that means there's a wider variety of spaces for people to get to know and participate in the queer community. It's not about making it more palatable to cishet people, it's about giving a greater variety of options for members of the queer community that literally can't do the current limited amount of options.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, I guess like, I guess bars should have like a I guess day life too. Not really centered on alcohol, but like maybe like I don't know, maybe like I don't know.
Maybe like a bookstore or a
Yeah.
queer themed park or something, or maybe even
Or maybe like games at like the
yeah,
bar.
like arcade, like an arcade or something. It could be anything.
Yeah,
It could be
anything.
anything. But it'd be nice to have a place to go where you'll find queer people without having to worry about, if you're gonna crash into a table or if you're gonna be expected to drink alcohol or if the hours are from like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah, I guess another thing that we could talk about is, I guess, universal bathrooms or like gender neutral family restrooms. I think there's like a whole bunch of names, right?
Yeah. I just remembered something now, something
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to touch on that was kind of like the reverse.
Okay.
Um, Despite the overlap between the disabled and queer community, like you can find significant numbers of queer
Mhm.
people in the disabled community and significant
Yeah.
numbers of disabled people in the queer community. But despite that, there is an issue within the disabled community about how we handle queer people and how welcoming we are to them. And it's awkward when you're with a group of disabled people and you think you're safe, and then one of them starts spouting homophobic and transphobic bullshit, and you're like, oh my god, what is wrong with you? Because you're sitting right there
Yeah.
and you're like trans and queer, and you're like, oh shit, this is not a safe space all of a sudden. um and that is an issue, but I do think there's value in the two communities working together, especially given how many of our common interests are like really, really common, like on the nose common, um and yeah, I mean, like being able to adopt, being able to marry, being able to enter buildings, there's a lot of common struggles there. Anyway, bathrooms, that's another common struggle.
Bathrooms.
Smooth transition.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, easy. Do it like a boss. Um, yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going first. So basically, like, I struggle with like finding like gender neutral universal bathrooms. Like whenever like it's just me and my mom, or like my sister, or like any other like person that helps me, that's like the opposite gender. Like I always have to be. It's really awkward because I have to use the restroom, but my only option is to go into the women's restroom if they don't have like a gender neutral restroom or like a family restroom. And I wish that I wasn't like always like this. Like for example, I went to Cal Expo for the state fair, and I kind of um I needed to use the restroom, but then I kind of decided on like my only option was go to the women's restroom or don't use the restroom at all. And what I usually like doing is just kind of holding it in and seeing how long that I can hold it in for. Because I don't really like going to the women's restroom. It gets really awkward for me, and I get really awkward, and I'm like
Yeah.
hella self-conscious about it.
Yeah, I feel you there with the holding it in park. Like whenever I'm out in public, I try very, very hard not to cause myself to need to go to the bathroom like halfway through. And that involves like keeping myself dehydrated,
Oh yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah. Exactly.
objectively bad.
It is
But the
bad.
alternative is turning to my friends and telling them, hey, can you help me get on the toilet? Can you help pull my pants off? Like I don't have aides that can just go with me on social outings,
Yeah,
so
not always.
it's just with my friends. I'm not gonna ask my friends to do that. I mean, I know they would. They would. They're good friends. They would. But I don't want to ask them to do that. I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm sure they'd be happy to help, but I don't want to ask them
Yeah,
to do
it's
that.
awkward.
It's very awkward. And I prefer the gender neutral bathrooms because they also happen to be some of them are accessible bathrooms. They have better bar supports in place and more space, and they're a bit more private, so I don't have to worry about people judging if they see my dad helping me transfer or whatever, and there's like space under the sink. But more often than not, there is not a bathroom like that available, and I have to go into the women's restroom. And that's really awkward for my dad because he's like he literally announces, it's a little embarrassing, but he literally announces as we walk in, "I'm helping my daughter go to the bathroom. Please don't panic if you see me."
I mean, it makes it less awkward sometimes.
I mean, to an extent it does, but it's like one of those dad moments where you're like, "Oh my god, please." I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
I mean, I guess that makes it all right.
Yeah, and it's awkward for both of us too, because like I am not a woman, so it feels a little weird to be in the women's bathroom, but I can't exactly use a urinal, so women's bathroom it is.
Yeah, and something else that I like about, like, I guess gender neutral restrooms is that it is more accessible, because sometimes that the wheelchair accessible stall is still small, and it's
Oh my
like you
God,
still
yeah.
have to like kind of stuff yourself in. But for like gender neutral, it's like a bigger space. It's like a square.
And
Sometimes
it's
like
actually accessible.
oh, it's not really a square. It's sometimes a rectangle, but like I guess some stalls and like the regular restrooms are like a square, and it just makes it more difficult.
Yeah, and the regular stalls. Oh God. We went on a road trip like in the what was it, 2008, 2012? I don't know, somewhere around that time. We went on a road trip, and I think it was actually 2012. Anyway, road trip, and we had to use some very unconventional bathroom stalls because the roadside bathrooms are interesting sometimes.
Yeah.
And the accessible stalls are not always actually accessible. And there was actually one stall we came across where we ended up using the normal stall.
Yeah.
Because the stall that had the placard sign on it was smaller than the normal stall.
Doesn't make sense.
And that was really awkward because I actually had to go. So I don't even know how they thought anybody could have fit in that stall because the doorway was so narrow. It was so narrow. It's like, what makes that accessible? Why did you put that there? But yeah, I mean, I prefer gender neutral bathrooms, both gender wise and accessibility wise, because they are more accessible. Which, on my mind, if we make normal bathrooms more accessible, I feel like that contributes to better bathrooms gender wise, because that means less judgment from other people who are using the bathroom. That means more resources for people using the bathroom. That means more space, maybe more privacy. Cross fingers. I like my privacy.
Same.
But you don't have to worry about running out of soap, and you don't have to worry about people staring at you, and you don't have to worry about the stall being too small. You don't have to worry about if the tampon container is out of tampons. Oh, there's this one video by the InfoWars girl, Kent State gun girl. I'm not gonna say her name. I'm not gonna give her that sort of respect. But if you know who she is, you know who she is. So there's this one video that went viral of her asking people what they would think of like more gender neutral measures being put in place for bathrooms, like adding tampons to the men's restroom. And she said it in a way where she expected them to agree with her that it was bad and awkward. But every single person she interviewed said, "Yeah, no, it sounds great. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, why do you care? Why do you care who's using a tampon and for what? That's none of my business." And like that's exactly that's exactly it, right? Like, why do
Yeah.
you care that wheelchair users using the space? Why do you care that their caregiver is the opposite gender of the restroom? Why do you care if they have tampons? You know, what does it matter? And I
Yeah.
feel like the definitions of better bathrooms for the two coincide very nicely there. So
Yeah, I guess that kind of story just kind of reminds me of the book Becoming Nicole. Have you read that before?
oh yeah, that was
Yeah,
required reading for my
it was
freshman
too.
seminar.
For me too. Yeah, but basically, there's this whole argument of like, oh, I guess like this person shouldn't go to the, I guess, the women's restroom because they have a dick or they have something else. I don't know.
God, in my 10, I just laughed at the word dick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah, but basically, there's this whole argument of like, yeah, basically that like they shouldn't do that. They should just go to the nurse's office to use the restroom too, not use the women's restroom.
And that's such a pain. And you know what? That's what we're told as disabled people. If the bathroom isn't accessible, we're told, oh, go to the nurse's office. Bitch,
Yeah.
that's all the way across campus. I'm not gonna hold it that long. And I don't want to go to the nurse's office. She acts weird and condescending around me and tells me what a good girl I am. And I'm like,
what a good girl.
ugh. Like it's awkward. It's awkward. And it is socially ostracizing. Is that the word? Is that how you say
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's socially ostracizing too, because it's like you're like the only one who has to do that. Like the odds that there's anyone else who has to go to the nurse's office to use the bathroom is really low.
Yeah, really low.
And it's awkward. It's awkward on so many levels.
It is. Yeah, and plus like for my elementary school days, like I had to go to the special ed like room where they have like I guess a lift for me to use the restroom.
Why doesn't everybody have that?
Yeah,
I mean, you have it for the special ed room. Why can't all the other rooms have that?
Yeah, maybe that's a solution. But that I don't know. That would make it less awkward. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to use the restroom. Let me go across campus. Let me go to a whole different room just to use the restroom.
Yeah.
Maybe like timing yourself, like, oh, 10:30. That's when I go to the restroom.
Yeah, and if you're trans, you're told the same thing.
Yeah.
If you try to use the bathroom and everybody around you's like, no, you have to use the nurse's office bathroom.
For some
and
reason.
You're like, why? The regular bathroom's right there. I can use that just fine. And they're like, oh, because it make other people uncomfortable. How would they be uncomfortable? They don't know unless they're being perverts.
Yeah. And I think like kids like do understand. Kids aren't probably not going to be like, oh, this is so gross.
Yeah, literally, kids are the most chill I've seen anyone about the concept of being trans and like having different body parts and gender and whatever. Like, they don't care. They might be mildly curious. They might ask invasive questions, but like you don't have to answer them. It's fine. But like beyond that, they don't care. Like they don't care if a person walks into the bathroom and maybe doesn't look like the gender of the bathroom. It's just they might question it, but not in like a malicious or scared way, just a curious way. Like how kids ask why the sky is blue. Why does that person who looks maybe not this gender, why are they in this bathroom? And the parent can just say, well, when you gotta go, you gotta go. And the kid will be like, all right. And that's it. Cool. It doesn't have to be complicated at all.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah, I guess another concept from Becoming Nicole is, I guess, like swimsuits, right? Like, she had to wear like what do you call it? Like not really a jumpsuit. It's a
one piece.
One piece basically.
Same name as the anime.
It's with her. Cool.
Make a whole anime called One Piece, but instead of pirates, it's about swimsuits.
Swimsuits. I don't think it's a one piece. I think it's like there it goes. A wetsuit.
A wetsuit.
Like, yeah.
Oh, okay. Technically, they're also one pieces, but yes, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but basically, she just had to wear that for like with swimming, and like
Yeah.
she didn't really have a choice of like wearing like I guess women's swimsuits.
Yeah, which is really dehumanizing because everybody else gets to wear generally what they want, but she's the only one being forced to wear a certain piece of swimwear to participate in class. That's what?
It makes it awkward. Yeah, I thought she's the one that stands out because everyone else is
Yeah.
wearing like this or that, not a wetsuit.
Yeah, like why can't she dress like any other girl would? Why does it
It's
matter?
I mean it's probably all because of society, how
Yeah,
society treats
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and
Like it could be so easy, just wear what you want.
yeah, and I can't really do uniform changes, like they do for PE. I've never been able to do PE
Same.
uniform changes, so I just kind of showed up to class in my normal clothes, and they eventually learned not to question it.
Yeah.
But like I can't change,
I mean, the
so
only thing that I did was change my shirt. That's it.
yeah.
I didn't really
Yeah,
change
at
my
most
bottom.
I changed my shirt, but even that was kind of like on days that I had PE, sometimes I just wore my PE shirt to school so I wouldn't have to change out of it. It's
Yeah, honestly, sometimes like there's really no point because like, do you sweat? Like
yeah.
because you don't really because
Like
I
I'm
didn't.
not sweating. I'm
I'm not
sitting here
running.
on the sidelines waving at the people getting tackled to the ground on the grass.
And like, is there really a point of wearing like different clothes if you don't sweat?
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah, I mean, she shouldn't have to, nobody should have to be forced to wear something that stands out so much just because they're ever so slightly different from their classmates. It's should not be that big of a deal to just
mhm,
let her wear what she wants like the other girls do. But apparently it is, and that's because society and even if I didn't have that exact same experience, it's still a very familiar feeling, being told you have to be treated a certain way because you don't fit the norm precisely. It's
mhm.
it's awkward and it's horrible for your social life too. It's like, I mean, I'm already bad at social stuff. I don't need this on top of that.
Yeah, make things more awkward than it has to
Yeah.
be.
Like, I'm already really good at making things awkward. Trust me, you don't need to do this to me.
So awkward.
But yeah, I'm not laughing at her troubles or anything, but just, it's society.
Society makes things awkward. When you're not
And that
awkward,
book,
society does.
that book honestly did wonders for me because I was still kind of figuring out my gender around that time, and reading about her experience. And just as a side note, I think it's beautiful how trans women kind of reclaim womanhood, like
Mhm,
they find their own definition of what it means to be a woman in various ways. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. Like, I am not a woman, but it makes me appreciate the more feminine aspects of myself
mhm,
more instead of them feeling more dysphoric. And it's nice. It's nice to see something reframed as a good experience because you're kind of seeing it through a different perspective. Like instead of
mhm,
womanhood being something I was forced into and chained to that I had to fulfill the role of, it's something you can choose to be. And I think that's beautiful. But it's vice versa for,
yeah.
the flip side, like being a guy doesn't have to be, macho man, never cry. Everybody's like super toxic to each other. It can be soft, it can be tough, it can be a whole variety of things that are good and healthy and happy and, you know, not toxic. And it's nice. I think trans people provide a very good and beautiful insight in what it means to be a certain gender that cis
Yeah.
people don't always realize and may take for granted, you know. And I think it's healthy to think about your gender, even if you decide that you're cis after, you know, exploring your gender. I think that's healthy to kind of like claim your gender for yourself instead of just being assigned it and being like, okay, you know.
For me, like, I guess the book kind of opened up to my eyes about like the trans issue about it, because like at first, like I didn't really understand it. It's like I don't really mind it, to be honest, but I didn't know what the whole like problem was. But when like they were talking about like, I guess like they just made it seem like it's society's problem. The
And
society
it
makes us
is.
feel awkward,
And it
and it really
is.
did open up my eyes. So
Yeah, and the book helped open my eyes too, because you know, it made me realize that being trans isn't as scary as it's made out to be. Like, it's not that different, you know. It's just another facet of human experience. And not that I saw it as a bad thing before, but more just I didn't know enough about it to feel confident in exploring the concept, you know. But that book kind of familiarized myself with just the entire community, honestly, the entire trans community. And it made it a lot easier to understand everything that came afterwards at that point. You know, it was like a gateway to understanding who the trans community is, how it actually works, what sort of concepts there are, how those concepts connect and overlap with other concepts such as you know, feminism and disability justice and environmentalism. You know, when you look for those connections, they're there, right? And it was wonderful that that book did so much for me in such a short amount of time.
Wasn't it like during like 2018 where I guess like that was a big issue, like gender neutral restrooms?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it still is a big issue right now for some reason.
Yeah, I honestly I never understood that argument, even when I didn't understand trans people for some reason. But like I never understood the argument because it's like it's just the bathroom.
Yeah, it's just a bathroom.
And honestly, the fear mongering that the opponents do about it, like saying there's predators or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, a rapist.
That fear mongering feels more sexist and against women than just letting trans people use the bathroom.
Yeah. Because I guess society still makes it, I don't know, like awkward if you are a predator. Like it does still make it awkward. You they probably won't. I don't know what I'm saying.
Like it's like you don't even like if somebody needs to go to the bathroom, they're just gonna go to the bathroom and then they're gonna leave, right?
Yeah, I think what's confusing about it is that how can like a law stop them? Like anyways.
Yeah, like if a predator is actually a predator, regardless of if they're trans, the law isn't gonna stop them. The law is there to punish them.
Yeah, wait, I'm kind of confused. Why would they do it?
And why would they follow the law in the first place? Like if you say, oh, you can't enter the bathroom if you're like a man at birth or whatever, a predator who is a man at birth is gonna look at that sign saying that and be like, all right, and then walk in anyway. Like,
it doesn't make sense.
It's not like, preventing any predators. And because of that, that's why it gets me so much, because if it's not actually preventing any crime from happening, then it's just targeting innocent trans people who just need to pee, for God's sake. They just need to pee. Let them pee. They're not there for any other reason. They're like any other person who's in the bathroom. Their one common shared goal between everybody in that bathroom is to pee and shit in peace. And that's what they're gonna do as long as cis people don't harass them for using the bathroom.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like there should be more of a law against people harassing others in the bathroom about their gender than there should be about, like, trans people using the bathroom. Like the former getting harassed, that feels a lot more of an issue than just people existing in a bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, like I still don't know why it's such a big issue still. Like it should already been solved because it's not a big issue.
Yeah, and the other thing too, the other interesting thing is this whole wave of transphobic people saying, "Oh, I can clock a trans person. I can tell who's trans and who's not, and you know, since I can tell, I'm gonna call you out if you go into the bathroom." They can't actually tell who's trans or who's not. They've repeatedly proven that time and time again. There was this cis woman actor whose photo was taken off the internet by someone who's transphobic and claimed that she was a trans, like, this is a trans woman,
Yeah.
look how easily clockable she is. And people started going after her on Twitter, and she's like, I'm literally a cis woman. Y'all are fucking stupid. Leave me alone. Right? And none of them listened to her. None of them believed her because they're like, oh, she must be lying. And it's like, okay, like this whole bathroom debate has led to people thinking that they can spot a trans person out in the wild. And that belief has led to severe decline in brain cells on that side of the argument. They're losing brain cells by the minute the more they insist that this cis person is trans or that this trans person is cis. They're making fools of themselves because you can't. The truth is, the whole point is that gender and sex is a spectrum, which means that there will be cis people with traits that you think make them trans, but they're not. You're just making a fool of yourself. And so the solution isn't to train yourself to accurately clock trans people, because that's never going to happen. And also, it's very creepy and rude and judgmental. The solution is to mind your own fucking business. That's all you need to do is mind your own business. And they will mind their business. And you'll go about that day never even knowing that you met a trans person. And everybody will be happy because they didn't get harassed and you didn't get your very fragile worldview shattered by meeting a trans person in person. You know, it's everybody wins solution is to mind your own business. It's a very easily attainable solution. It's very peaceful. It solves every single issue you've been yelling about. Just do it. Mind your own business.
Yeah, just do it.
It's that easy. It's that easy.
Yeah, but I still do think gender neutral restrooms are still beneficial. Like for the things that you said throughout the podcast.
Yeah, and I hope they become even more common because I really enjoy having them there. Yeah. That was a very long rant about transphobes, but anyway, I doubt that anybody who actually needs to hear that is going to hear that.
I don't think so.
Given the audience of our podcast.
Oh.
I don't know. Like, but yeah, that whole rant was directed at the people who actually needed to hear that, but I don't know if they'll ever hear it. But yeah, there's so much overlap between the two communities, and it's a little awkward to exist in most communities at the same time because of, you know, the inaccessibility of a good chunk of the queer community and the queerphobia of the good chunk of the disabled community.
Yeah.
But in the space between, there's a lot of people. I'm not alone, and it's been a very nice space to exist in, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, honestly.
Yeah, I do want to go back on what you're saying on like having more gender neutral universal like restrooms. Like I'm really surprised like how the Expo it's been around for like years and years and they haven't implemented like gender neutral like restrooms. It's
Oh
because
yeah,
it's
I
like
haven't been to the expo. Can you tell me more about that?
yeah. So basically, Cal Expo is just like there's raging waters there, and it's just like a big area for like festivals to happen.
Nice.
That's it. That's basically it. It happens like the state fair and things like that. There's food festivals too. So it's just like a place where people hang out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they want to like make sure there's as much space as possible for people who are using the space to work with,
Yeah.
but that's not really an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
I
sure
mean,
they could
like,
stand to install better
yeah.
restrooms.
I mean, they'll probably have to rebuild like some stuff because I know like they have like buildings for restrooms and such.
Yeah.
Maybe like I don't know, they have to build like a new thing on the side of it. But like,
I mean, it'd be worth it.
it is
It'd
worth
be
it.
time consuming, but it'd be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd
Be
be
worth it
nice to have a
to
proper restroom.
make it more accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess make it more universally designed, right?
Yeah, I've actually seen accessible porta potties,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not big enough. I mean, I get why they have to be that big, but they're not big enough.
Yeah, they're not.
I've been in them before because some of the events I go to for Curisume, like the walk and roll, I think that's coming up actually.
Is it? What is it?
Anyway, some of the events they rent those accessible porta potties, and it's just as bad as a normal porta potty. Honestly, the only difference is that your chair can fit in it with like minimal
Yeah.
movable space.
Yeah, honestly, I've never been to one before. And plus, it's like I kind of don't want to go in it anyways.
Yeah, it's
In this case.
disgusting. It's
Oh, yeah,
nice
yeah,
to
yeah.
have
That was
proper
disgusting.
restrooms that are accessible. Everybody wants a proper restroom.
Yeah, I guess porta potties are known for being disgusting at times.
Yeah.
It's like I probably don't want to sit there
Yeah,
or eat stuff in there.
the smell is so rancid. I can just remembering it, I can smell it, and I need to
Mm.
plug my nose because like I remember the smell so vividly. Porta potties are the worst.
Yeah, they're kind of traumatic in a way.
Yeah. That's the other thing though. Porta potties aren't gendered, so why does everything else have to be gendered related to bathrooms? Porta potties are inherently gender neutral. Like, why not just make more gender neutral bathrooms that aren't porta potties?
Yeah, I think of it like a stall. Like they're like right next to each other, anyways.
Yeah, it's like
This makes sense.
The amount of mental gymnastics people have to do to justify there being only men and women's restrooms and no gender neutral bathrooms is it's like, I would give you an Olympic gold medal for that level of gymnastics if I could, given how much jumping around and twisting you're doing to like defend your point of view when you could easily solve the whole problem by just saying anybody can use the bathroom and I'll just mind my own business.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's such a simple solution, and they're doing all these fancy little footsteps and jumping around to get around it, and
Yeah,
you don't need to do that. I mean, it's impressive, but you don't need to do that.
Yeah, I think society just needs to change about like those things. Like, why bring it up to Congress or bring it up to the government? Why can't we just like not care enough or like just be comfortable with it?
Yeah, I if we had the same amount of vigor and energy for accessible bathrooms as we had from people arguing against gender neutral bathrooms, we would be improved by a whole society. Like as a whole, we would be improved so much. All that energy going to the dumbest argument you could pick. Why not argue for more accessible bathrooms or something?
Yeah, honestly,
or to make current bathrooms more accessible.
Honestly, I thought you were gonna say something about climate change, because like
something about what?
About climate change, or global
climate
warming.
change. I mean that too, but
I mean, like,
if they're dead set on it being a bathroom issue, like why not focus on accessibility instead of
or
like how you hate
change,
trans people that much? Like nobody cares that you hate trans people. Just shut up and do something useful, please. You're not doing anything useful by hating on trans people. You're just being annoying and making people upset. That doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm like fighting for no good reason. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so we're 54 minutes. So do you want to end it?
Already? Okay.
Yeah, already.
Yeah.
What do we talk about?
I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about. I'm thinking again about how disability impacts gender expression in relation to gender. Yeah, so like I don't know if I would have started exploring my gender later in life if I weren't disabled, because being disabled like kind of alienated me from other kids my age who were supposedly the same gender as me, because I didn't really understand or felt inclined to participate in the same activities they did that were considered, traditional gendered activities. And, that wasn't always the case in every instance. I was definitely a horse kid. I liked horses and I liked my Barbie dolls and I liked my fairies, but I wasn't a huge fan of like painting my nails or using makeup because it felt really weird sensory wise. I mean, I can kind of do it now, but it's more of an art performance than it is like a gender expression.
Yeah.
And I just like I did that thing as a kid where I was like, oh, I'm not like other girls. And part of it was internalized misogyny, but the other part of it was the fact that I wasn't a girl. So, I mean, it took me a bit to figure out, but, already being alienated from like the inherent inaccessibility of some activities and, just a whole bunch of different factors that I cannot list off the top of my head right now because that's childhood trauma. It's just it wasn't for me. Being a woman wasn't for me, and being considered one, and especially I noticed it especially more as I got older, being called a woman or a girl or a young lady, it never sat right with me. And I think I have my disability to thank in helping me put some of the pieces together before it became too unbearable, and for helping me detach from the idea that I have to look a certain way to be accepted, or that I have to act a certain way to be accepted, that I have to do certain things to be accepted. Because with my disability and the accommodations I needed, that wasn't the case for like every single thing we did as a class, like dodgeball and running laps and God, I hated dodgeball. Like, okay, listen, I have a lot of feral murderous energy, but dodgeball was not it. But yeah, I mean, I think my disability played a huge role in helping me realize I was queer, and I think that overlap is significant and should not be ignored, and I think it should be investigated more too. Like, who knows what we'll find. Oh, shut up now.
Okay. I guess you're supposed to end it. You're supposed to say that. I don't know.
Oh shit! I'm supposed to end it. Okay. We're cutting this out, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay. I need to look at the ending script.
I mean, the only thing I have to say is just thanks for listening. That's it. See you next time.
I know. I just if I don't have a script in front of me, my brain short circuits and I end up sounding really stupid.
Plus, I don't think we have a script.
Oh God, we don't have a script. Do we?
Yeah, you don't.
Shit.
Start saying it however you want.
Okay. So that wraps up this conversation, and I want to thank you, Brian, for asking all these questions and participating in this discussion with me. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Stay safe, have fun, be a menace to society. Hashtag where's the ramp? This is Through Our Lens podcast with Dana.
Hashtag we're good at podcasting. Yeah, all right, bye everyone. Bye. See you next time.
See you next time.
You're listening to Through Our Lens with the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance at Sacramento State, a podcast that centers on disability with the hopes of uplifting, informing, and bringing together disabled people and their allies. If you'd like to join Dana in the conversation, head to the description to check out our link tree and find us on Instagram at DANA at Sac State. Hashtag where's the ramp? Hashtag we're good at podcasting.